You're watching Talking Points, a focus on the political scene in Lubbock and across the South Plains.
Welcome back. Here's a look at some of the political headlines of the past week. Lubbock County Judge Curtis Parrish named chairman of the US 82 Texas Corridor Steering Committee this week. TxDOT is beginning a new study for Highway 82 from the New Mexico border to the Arkansas border, 575 miles. The committee Judge Parrish now chairs will be in charge of recommending improvements, and he will present the study's findings to state and federal leaders. It'll take about a year to complete, and TxDOT wants the study to focus on the condition of the road itself and create a long-term vision for its future. This week, Governor Greg Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick were sworn in for their third terms. Abbott signaled what his top priorities will be, including infrastructure investments, border security, and public safety, as well as property tax reform. While Abbott was less specific, Patrick unveiled his big plan for tax relief that includes a homestead exemption raise to $70,000. Governor Abbott's talk of priorities this session was unofficial. We'll hear his final draft during his State of the State in February. Well, Texas House and Senate leaders released their preliminary state budget bills this week for the next 2 years. Each of them proposed spending an unprecedented $130.1 billion, and each appear to leave more than $50 billion on the table. The bills both include $15 billion for property tax relief, $1.8 billion for state employee pay raises, and $4.6 billion for the governor's border security program called Operation Lone Star.
For Texans, the proof's in the pudding. For Texans, we need to see the results.
Delegation led by our local representative to send a message to the president and other lawmakers. Texas won't stand for business as usual at the border. Let's talk about December and this delegation. You're standing near the steps of the Capitol talking about the border. That was a strong show of strength, a line in the sand, really, to use a Texas term. Talk with me about the things that have happened since. I know that Biden did show up here in the Lone Star State. He was in El Paso a few weeks ago. Some people weren't super thrilled with how that went. Some people really felt it went well. Is there progress there? How are you feeling about this going forward?
I think there's posturing and lip service, quite frankly, because the numbers show that the deluge of illegal immigrants, of crime and drugs continue to pour into our country. This is the biggest and most immediate safety and security threat to the United States. And we decided as a Texas delegation, and I was proud to lead the charge for my colleagues, that we needed to articulate and package the policies and the legislative provisions that would stop the flow, secure the border, and end the chaos and lawlessness at the border. And nobody would be better to advance that and to shout that every day from the top of the Capitol than the people of Texas, because we're ground zero for this disaster. Sadly, it's a self-inflicted disaster. We know how to stop it. The previous president stopped it. And so it really comes down to an issue of political will for this president, which I haven't seen on this issue. And then it's going to be the political will of our conference now in the new majority. Will we use the power of the purse, the power of subpoena, investigation, and maybe impeachment if the facts lead us there, to put the pressure appropriately on this president to stop this nonsense and chaos. I think the last piece I would say is Texas and other states have the constitutional sovereign power of self-defense. It's clearly written into the Constitution. If the federal government fails to provide for a common defense, if they fail to stave off an invasion, and I believe it is an invasion of drugs by drug cartels and crime by these narco-terrorist cartels, Texas can step up and should step up and stop it and do what the federal government is unwilling to do. Yeah. And I wish they were, and I wish we didn't have to spend tax dollars of our citizens of Texas on a job the federal government should be doing, but we've got to do whatever it takes, because Texas will be fundamentally different in 2, 4, 6 years at the rate that we're going. We've already had 5 million people come to this country. We don't know who they are. We don't know their backgrounds. We don't know their criminal history. We don't know their values. We don't know their intentions. What is Texas without our values and the Texas spirit? And we have to make sure we welcome the immigrant, but we only welcome those who will come the legal way and respect our laws, our sovereignty, and the safety of our fellow Texans. That's not happening right now. So we got to fight. And we got to fight and push back on that issue and stopping the spend that's bankrupting the country. Those are the 2 big things. And if we don't do anything else, I am all in with every fiber of my fighting being on behalf of West Texans and on behalf of my fellow Americans.
Yeah. And let's talk chaos. I liked that you used that word because there was a little bit of that when you first got to Washington this year. Let's talk a little bit about the election of leadership. 15 votes, historic.
Yes.
We were getting, words from your office. Please pray for this.
Yes.
We need help. What can we do? I mean, I hear that and I'm thinking there's some distress there. So talk with me a little bit about that experience.
It's frustrating to get a late start when you're seeing all the disastrous policies and effects of this administration and basically unified Democrat control of Congress. Now the American people have given us a divided Congress, and they gave the Republicans the majority in the House, and we still couldn't get our House in order and get our leadership elected and begin the process of advancing our commitment to America, right? And the things that we've talked about with respect to securing the border, holding this administration accountable, stopping the reckless spending. None of that was going to happen until we got organized. So while it was frustrating, I would tell you it was important to have this very intense dialogue with the family. Families fight. As long as we love each other and as long as our interests are mutually beneficial, in this case, if our interests are to help our country, then it's okay as long as we come out of it at some point. I think we are closer together as a conference. I think we are more committed than ever to those commitments and pledges that we made in the campaign and our agenda, which we call the Commitment to America. And it really boiled down to this. Some of our members wanted to make sure that our leadership was going to fight and they were going to be committed to following through on some of these big things that we've talked about. And they weren't sure that they would, because in the past they haven't. And they didn't want business as usual. I didn't either. Now, while I wasn't out front, I was behind the scenes helping negotiate a path forward and building consensus between leadership and the rank and file members. I think we are so much better for it. And I think members feel empowered, and I think members, including myself, have more confidence that we're going to stick to our guns, that we are going to stick to our principles, and that we are going to fight and follow through on the things that we said we would do. That makes all of it worth it. Was it frustrating? Was it a little chaos? Sure. But it was the good kind that when you emerge from it, you're better and stronger and more focused than ever. And I really believe that. And quite frankly, a lot of those discussion points were around our commitment to restoring fiscal responsibility. And a lot of rules and policies were put into place that would hold each other, our conference, accountable to following through on those. As the budget chairman and as the person leading the charge to rein in this spending and restore fiscal responsibility, that has helped me tremendously. It's paved the way for me to be more effective and have a greater prospect of success for our country.
Thank you for taking the time, because you are a busy guy. So thanks for coming back
home
and talking with us. Yeah, thank you so much. Well, a day off this week for many state employees to observe Confederate Heroes Day, honoring General Robert E. Lee and other Confederates who fought in the Civil War. But Texas Democrats argue this holiday is insensitive and they vow to end it altogether.